Welcome back to the channel, and today I'm joined by Will fucking Fleury, the raw bastard from Tipperary, who's taking on Tarek Suleiman on Saturday, the 26th of March, in the main event of UAE Warriors for the light heavyweight. Sorry, not the light heavyweight, for the middleweight title. So, how are you doing today, Will?
Yeah, I'm good, man. Excited right
Yeah,
now.
it's good to speak to you again. So, look, firstly, what was the initial reaction to getting the title shot?
Yeah, it was fucking. Look, I've said this a few times now. When COVID ended, or when all the restrictions got kind of thrown away, I got offered a shitload of fights within the space of 2 weeks. So I got 5 fight offers in 2 weeks. This was the one I wanted the most, and it was the one I thought was least likely to happen. So I accepted it, thinking Tarek definitely wouldn't, and fair fucks to him, he's taken it as well. So now it's happening, and I get to fight for a title on a UFC Fight Pass show. So I'm fucking delighted, man.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because the number of conversations that we've had about, you not getting matchups, you kind of searching far and wide across Europe and the deepest corners of Romania or wherever it was to go and get a matchup somewhere. And now all of a sudden, what, five come along all at once?
Yeah, no, even like so the 3 4 weeks before all the restrictions ended, I thought I had a few fights lined up and I kept falling through and the guys kept not accepting. And I was getting seriously frustrated. And obviously the last year and a half before that was pretty fucking tough too to get anything. So thank fuck it was like a flood came in. And then look, this feels huge though, because this is a massive opportunity now. You go out, you smash this lad, you do it impressively. The door is open to the UFC in my eyes, or you're at least getting into the contender series, or as long as I go in and perform to what I fucking can do, there's huge opportunities ahead. So this was like the way to get your foot in the door straight away, in my eyes anyway. So now it's just about getting in there and smashing them.
Yeah, you mentioned it there. So I was going to get to this later on, but is the UFC the goal here? Is that the long-term plan?
Yeah, I've said this for fucking it. Like, it's strange how people are surprised by that, but of course, like, why do you start fighting? You want to be in the UFC, you want to be making your mark in the sport, you want to be fucking leaving a bit of a legacy behind you. And so far, that's something I haven't accomplished and something that burns within me to accomplish. So I'm going to get on accomplishing that. Like,
Yeah, what was the last, I guess maybe you can kind of talk a little bit for people to understand, what was the last kind of number of years like for you? I mentioned there you were trying to get these matchups and you were taking on any comer really that was presented to you. Was it a really difficult kind of few years to get that consistency going?
yeah, but I think the sport's always going to be like that, man. I was lucky in the fact that I wasn't badly injured at any point during that. I was, fairly healthy and I was able to increase my skill set a shitload. But I'll be honest, like, say when I got fucking signed by Bellator, I thought, oh, this is going to be class. This is going to lead to like way better things. Once you realize you're fighting twice a year and actually your career is going to be pretty stagnant as long as you're with them. I was getting paid pretty well, so I was happy about that. But like, you're not exactly fulfilling any of your dreams by being there. So when I got let go by Bellator, like, they didn't re-sign my contract, I wasn't exactly unhappy. I thought this is a fucking big opportunity to get other shit going in my career. Thankfully, that's finally fucking happening now. But unfortunately, like, it's a year and a bit on. So I did have that like year and a bit gap. But fortunately, I wasn't injured during that period of time. And I was just in training every morning. And I had Narius and Mohammed and a few other boys that were really, really good. And I've had Kieran Davern with me as well. I've increased my skills massively. So I feel like if I'd gotten this opportunity a year and a bit ago, okay, I might have gone in and done pretty well in the middleweight division. Now I feel like, okay, you're a genuine fucking contender, as in my skill set's way above anyone I look at who's not ranked in the UFC. So, in a way, maybe it's a blessing, but it was frustrating as fuck having to wait for that long.
Do you regret signing with Bellator from the perspective of being tied to those two fights a year and not being able to be more as active as you would have liked? Is there regret there?
No, I wouldn't say like I regret signing for them. I would say I wasn't unhappy when I found out that I wasn't being re-signed. Now, there's loads of lads who I think should take that contract if they get offered it. I wouldn't, like a young lad in a similar position to me at that time, I'd say, fuck yeah, sign it. Like, it allowed me to make a living from fighting for the last 3 years. That's huge. Like, I'm sitting here in a position of fucking privilege where, like, I haven't had to work for the last 2.5 years because of Bellator. I'm not trying to shit on them. I'm not trying to be like, oh, they're a terrible company. They weren't bad at all. And like, it enabled me to make a fucking proper living from fighting, which isn't common. The only one thing I would say is it probably did stagnate momentum a little bit, and you do feel like it doesn't really matter if you're a decent fighter or not. It just doesn't seem to actually, your skill set isn't really important to them. So you could be shit hot and they'll treat you exactly the same as somebody who's pretty crap. And that's disheartening. But on the whole, no, I don't regret it.
Yeah, and I mean it's great to hear that it positions you nicely to be able to train full time. Before that, what were you doing? What were you doing for work?
So a few things. No, like I lived in London for a little while and I'd saved up a little bit of money as like working as a quantity surveyor over there. And then I fucking hated my life, my job over there. So quit the job, moved back to Cork. Kind of had a decent, well, a bit saved and the exchange rate was pretty good at the time. And then I was on the dole in Ireland for about 2 years. And then I was doing a little bit of work on the dole. So, the usual shit. Like,
So you know yourself.
I was working security then. So that kind of ended about 2017. And then I was working security inside in Berlin, which has been closed down now. I worked security there for about a year and a half, kind of. And since then, I've started making decent money with Bellator and I was able to just go full time with this. And even like, look, during that period, I was training twice a day anyway.
I'd say you've seen a few fights on the doors in Berlin, have you?
Zero. Not one.
None.
Never. Oh, never fucking hit anyone. Never. Just don't go for that shit, man. Don't be aggressive. You're calm with people. People are generally calm with you back. And, I think I kind of carry a vibe of like a stern fucking authority anyway. So people don't fuck with me too often. So thankfully, I never had to do anything.
Yeah, no, I'm glad to hear that. And one of the other things I was thinking about, I remember listening to I think you were on, was it with Paddy Houlihan on No Shame? It was a few years ago now. And you were talking about your parents' shop. I'm so intrigued by this. So I wanted to ask you about that. Like, did you work? Could you explain what your parents' shop was like? And did you work in it when you were younger?
I did, yeah, of course. I got fucking roped into working there, shitload. So it was a huge antique shop in the middle of Care, which is a small town in South Tip. It was a mad fucking place to grow up. And like, it was very different. There's loads of obviously fairly artsy kind of folk associated with antiques. But it wasn't really my vibe at all. And I just kind of ended up doing a lot of like repair work for the different stuff and a lot of delivery work, that type of thing. And then like my parents were fairly like kind of free-spirited people. They were fucking hippie-ish enough in their own way, but like sort of businessy too. It was a very interesting way to grow up. Anyway, it was very different for sure.
What I noticed recently was there was an MMA event, just a new promotion, I'm going to forget it now, Premier FC in Tipperary. What does it mean to you to represent Tipperary and I guess that region in Ireland? But like, do you see, maybe you don't go back and visit that much, but like, do you see kind of a growing, I guess, presence of MMA in that region of the country?
Yeah, definitely, man. And even like the amount of, so I went down I was home over Christmas and I went down to SPG Clonmel and it was my first time ever down there, unfortunately. But like, it was class being there and it was class seeing like, oh, there's some decently high level guys in South Tip now. And I like, even look, there's Adrian Albert up in Ross Gray and there's a gym in Nina now as well. And like Chris Luman has a gym at Burr, which is like awfully technically, but it's just beside the border. And like, there's a proper scene now. You're going to have a load of grapplers in 10 years. You're going to have a load of legit, like, there's going to be some black belts out of Tip in the next 10 years. Like, and that's class. And like what Colomar did, they're going up and winning nationals. And it's cool. Like, fucking man, it's only 15 years since there was zero, like literally nothing. I remember buying an MMA magazine in South Tip in 2008. And like, it was the first time, like I'd watched MMA on Bravo, but this was the first time I'd ever seen anything physically associated with MMA, and yeah, it's mad. It's mad how quickly it's changing. And look, I imagine that it's going to keep changing just as quickly. So it's cool.
Yeah, no, definitely. To change tacks, you signed with Danny Rubinstein and Rubinstein Sports there recently enough. How did that come about? How did that come about?
So it's through Youssef. Youssef was my matchmaker when I fought with Brave. And I really liked him just because he wasn't about celebrity profile or Instagram or any of that shit. It was more just like, I'm going to match two tough guys up against each other. We're going to have a good fight. And I always found him very good to deal with. He was actually look, it's kind of a long story, but like it was nearly him that allowed me to be signed by Bellator in a way, and I really appreciated that. But it was kind of afterwards I just messaged them because I knew he was a matchmaker, or that they had previously been a matchmaker, and he'd been on to me. He was really supportive of my career throughout my career. And I got on to him just looking for a matchup. You know, he's just one of the guys that I hassled, texting wise. And he started to actually come back to me with some stuff. So all those fights beforehand that I thought were happening that weren't happening, that was all through Yusuf. And then this fight came along and he said, okay, I can get this, but you're going to have to sign with Ruby Sports to get it. And I thought, yeah, fuck it. Why not? So it's more through Yusuf. But look, Ruby Sports seem like a good crowd. They've, you know, good track record. They do well generally. So I'm happy to be signed with them.
Yeah, like does that give you, I guess, a little bit more confidence or reassurance that you're heading in the right direction? You have a title fight lined up, you're signed with a well-known sports agency, and things are moving in the right direction.
I think people think that management are going to do things for them they can't do. Like if you go in and you perform, the doors are going to be open, no matter who you're with. If you're fucking exciting enough and you're good enough, nobody's going to go say, oh, he's not with that crowd. It's if you're a mid-level guy, okay, then it might make a difference. But as long as you're fucking good enough, you'll get in regardless. So yeah, it's cool. It's great to be with them. But man, I've got to be that good anyway. That's the way I look at it. And like, if I'm not able to go in there and put on a show that's exciting enough to get people talking, then fuck it. Why should you be signed anyway? Whereas if I can go in and smash people and do it damn impressively and go, oh shit, this guy could be a contender, then people are going to watch you there anyway. So you have to put people in the position that they kind of need you there. And that's what next Saturday is going to be all about.
Yeah, 100%. A double-pronged approach. So, as you said, next Saturday, massive fight up at UAE Warriors for the belt, for the middleweight title, fighting Tarek Suleiman, who you've fought before and you've beaten before. Since then, he's gone and won the light heavyweight title at UAE Warriors and then dropped down to 185. I think he only fought there very briefly at 205. But are you surprised that this specific matchup was made and that Tarek took the fight?
Yeah, I am. Now, Tarek has improved a shitload. We fought 4 years ago. We're both completely different fighters. We're both completely different in the way we're going to approach the fight, I think. I don't expect it at all to be similar to the first fight. I do, though, think that I have some huge advantages going into this, and I'm surprised that he took it. But it's on me to go in and show those advantages. So, I'm very excited about getting to get in there next Saturday and getting to put on, like, not just making this theoretical, not just sitting here in front of the phone talking shite, actually putting on a performance that people are going to go, holy fuck, this guy's something different. And I've done the work to be that thing. So I'm excited to go off and show it, like go and show it off, When
you look at each other, say skill for skill, where do you feel that those advantages lie for you?
I'm a lot faster than him. And I think, he's got a decent jet bottom game, but the rest of his MMA game isn't really developed that well. So he's very tough. Like, I couldn't believe how strong he was the first time we grappled, and he is very physically strong. He's much stronger than he looks. He looks a little pudgy and whatever, but like once he gets a hold of you, I was like, Jesus. Like, he had a Kimura grip in the second round at one stage, and I couldn't believe, like, my fucking hands were going numb just from him grabbing around my wrist. Like, so he has a bit of strength in that grip, but other than that, like, watching his last few fights, even, he has improved. He definitely has, but there's huge deficits in his game still. And I have a style that can exploit that. I'm a lot faster. I'm a lot more fluid on the feet. And yeah, look, I have some new tools. I have some things that, like, I've been working on for about 2 years now that I really, like, I probably would have got to show last September, but now I'm really glad that I didn't, because I think I'm going to shock some people.
Yeah. And like, do you think that you have improved more than he has improved in the last 4 years?
Yeah. Like, I can't see how he would have done the amount of work I've done. And I can't see, like, even look, like, I went through a point last year where all I was doing every morning was coming in and grappling with Muhammad and Arias for about, 3-4 hours every morning. And that lasted for close to 6 months. And that totally changed my grappling game. And since then, I've been doing, a hell of a lot of work on my striking. And, I felt like I'd built my striking to a much better level than where it had been, say, when I was fighting with Bellator previous to that anyway. I've had to adjust because of a few injuries and that sort of thing. I'm Southpaw now, and I actually find it much, much better to be a Southpaw fighter. And I'm doing things that, I'm kind of like impressed by what I'm able to do every day, if you get me.
Why? Sorry to cut across you. Why did you? So you've changed from orthodox to Southpaw, have you? Why did you make that change?
I've no meniscus in my left knee, so if I stand orthodox, I can't really throw my backhand that well.
Sorry, I probably shouldn't have asked that. I just gave away a big game. Apologies for that. You mentioned the striking there, though. Another thing I wanted to ask, was it because of the Norbert Naveni Jr. fight? Did you identify maybe holes in your striking game and then decide, right, I need to make changes here?
Yeah, big time. Like, prior to that fight, I kind of thought like, I'm doing pretty well. I'm a damn good fighter. Like I got knocked out in Rome that time, obviously, but I kind of thought that was a like freak occurrence. I was doing well in all my spars. I felt very good. Anyone I competed against was at a high level. I'd do well against them. And then that fight was like a fucking getting hit by a truck of a wake-up call to be like, hold on a second. You looked fucking shit. You looked like you weren't even at the races with this guy, and this guy's 19. Now, having said that, not taking anything away from Norbert's class, obviously, but I would have been expecting myself to be able to be a lot more competitive. And like, you can say a lot of people have tried to talk me out of being so negative about it, saying like, oh, you did do well. There was certain things that went well in that fight. I took him down in the first round and was like, had him in side control for a little while and that sort of thing. But I had zero defense for the overhand, and I had zero defense for the range, and I kept believing he was going to try and shoot. And every time I thought he was going to try and shoot, I was going for the underhook, and then I was getting smashed in the face. And look, it's disappointing to not be able to figure that out live, and it's fucking shit that you're the guy that went and got fucked up in front of 10,000 of your own fans, if you know what I mean. But it made me kind of a lot more determined to be. It was like, okay, what do I have to do to be at a higher level? What do I have to do that's never going to happen again? And I went in search of those answers. I don't feel like I've found every fucking thing I wanted to find. I have a much more what would you say, like a much more solid theoretical game, which plays out in practicality as well. So
kind of the fight IQ, is it?
Sort of, but say like, if you're doing A, I'm doing B. And if you switch to B, I'm going to C, D, and E. And I'll play those games. And I'll play those games consciously. Whereas in the past, I would have just felt things and, looked to kind of exploit holes and opportunities that I felt. So now during my spars, I'm a lot more conscious of where I'm at. I have people trying to take my head off on a daily basis. Nobody really succeeds. Nobody has succeeded. I haven't and look, this isn't fucking something you want to be happening in sparring a shitload anyway, but I haven't been caught heavy in a sparring a long fucking time, and I'm sparring with guys who are big light heavyweights who, Carl and Johnny are two of my main sparring partners, and they're trying to knock the head off me, and it's been a while since anyone's actually been able to catch heavy. So I think I'm a lot more, theoretically solid. And I kind of it's just spending time in all of those positions again and putting in the reps to be able to allow your brain to kind of go, okay, now you just do this shit naturally. So you become conscious of it, and then it kind of becomes slightly subconscious. And I felt like I'd done that with my striking over the previous kind of 5-6 years prior to the Norbert fight. And then afterwards, it got a massive reinvestment of time. So I spent about 6 months just coming in, doing a shitload of pad work every morning with Narius, with Azelle, with the and getting different ideas off of everybody, kind of pulling out everybody's brain of what do you do when somebody rushes with the overhand? What do you do in this position? What do you do if you're not sure if he's going to shoot? Just pulling all that stuff. One thing I do feel like I'm quite good at is pulling info out of people. And one fucking fantastic thing about SPG is there's enough people there that there are a lot of different, there's no one answer to anything, man. There's 7 different answers, and you come up with the one that fucking kind of seems to fit your style the best. And over the space of about 7-8 months, so say that was September 2019. Shortly after the break of the second lockdown, so say prior to the Kent Kaupinen fight, like I'd been doing a good bit on my own at that stage anyway. And like that was the mad thing, the one anomaly in all of this. And like I'm kind of going into all the negative aspects of my career at this point. But like that Magic Rosensky fight, I'd been doing a shitload of that sort of work before all that. And then just because it hadn't really like there'd been no sparring, it had been all theoretical work. So I'd done I'd been out drilling, you know, in my fucking yard out here for the last like kind of 6-8 weeks before that fight, and it was running a load, and I only got the fight on 2 weeks notice. I was just doing that shit anyway, because you know things were obviously going to come back eventually. So I was kind of drilling all that stuff into myself, and that's why I felt confident enough to take that fight. But it kind of wasn't at a polished level at that stage. And I felt like when I fought Kent, it was a little bit more polished, but I didn't have the speed behind it. And it wasn't quite where it needed to be. Like, so look, I think he's a fucking very dangerous striker. He didn't catch me once, quite a few times. I judged distance quite well. Anytime he was coming in, I was well away. You know, I was pretty proud of some of the actions taken in that fight, but yet the knockout power and the speed weren't quite there. And I know that I have those things because I've been down in a few different boxing gyms sparring away. And yeah, like I have legit power when I catch, you know. And I think even like, yeah, right. So I'm excited to basically get in and show off all that work. Pretty much.
No,
very good answer.
It was really interesting to hear. It's almost like I'm listening to you talk about the theoretical side of the game, the decision making, the logic, and it's like there's the quantity surveyor Will Fleury making, you know, real time decisions in a fight simulation almost. Looking ahead to Tarek Suleiman, as you approach preparing for him as an opponent, is it a bit of a weird or different experience this time in that it's a rematch? Like, how do you approach it differently?
Yeah, I kind of approached it as if it's not a rematch. Because the first 2 weeks after I got this fight, I did feel like, oh, this is a fucking title fight. Like, it was really exciting, but it was like, you just feel like you're going to beat this guy. And I remember having that feeling before Rome. And that was the first fight I ever lost when I fought Alan Amedovski. I just felt like, oh, you're going to win this. Like, you're going to smash this guy. It's going to happen. And it's a shit fucking idea to go into a fight like that, because you need that little bit of fear. You need that little bit of, this guy's fucking dangerous. Everybody's dangerous, man. They're fighting for their fucking lives, and respect that, you know. Just because you understand what they're going to do a little bit better than they think, or they understand what you're going to do, doesn't mean you're fucking entitled to win. And like, yeah, look, I'm approaching this as if it's not a fucking rematch. This is a new guy. This is a totally different person. I fought someone very similar to him 4 years ago, but it's not him. It's a new guy. It's a different scene. It's a different thing. And I respect the fact that Tarek is a second degree black belt. He's fucking ran his own, you know, he's been the head coach in Tiger Muay Thai, or the jiu-jitsu coach in Tiger Muay Thai. You know, he's got some legit achievements under his belt. He's won the fucking light heavyweight title. He's beat some guys with really good records. He's a legit fighter, man. I should not at all be thinking I'm going to smash this guy. And yet, the things I do on a daily basis allow me to think that. And it's up to me to kind of balance those two things of like, have a healthy fear, but also know, fuck, Will, you've done the work to be shit hot. Go in there and just be hot.
And is this 5 rounds, I'm assuming, title fight?
Yeah, it's 5 rounds, yeah.
Yeah, so does that change anything at all to your game plan, or?
I think it suits me. Definitely it's going to be a slightly more tentative pace at first. It'll give me more time to figure things out in there, to see those holes, to see the opportunities. It's whether or not the holes are big enough to want to go for it early on. And if they are, then we're going to get a quick finish. But I don't think he has more than 2.5 rounds in him. Even, like, I'm sure he's doing a ton of conditioning, doing a ton of whatever. Fuck, mate, you're not like me. Honestly, like, you know, not talking shit, but like, nobody goes like I go for 5 rounds. Like, we do 5-5s in the gym, and like, I'll get fresh partners every round and be fresher than the guy I've done my last round with. And, you know, I don't have a massive amount of power. Like, I'm not a ridiculously strong, powerful person. I can't fucking lift a ton of weight. I can stay consistently going at 80% all fucking day. So yeah, I really think the longer the fight, if it was a fucking 12-round fight and it was like, you know, until somebody finishes somebody, I'd be delighted. I'd be delighted if fighting in general was like that. Like, if it's until it's over, that'd be great.
All going well. How do you visualize this fight going? How do you see it playing out?
I can't tell you. I don't fucking know, but I can see there being holes early on, and I can see myself finishing him early, or I can see him getting grinded into the third round and finished with a late TKO in the third. Maybe I like all of those are options. On the night, he'll present options, and I'll take them.
Well, Fleury, I really appreciate the time today, fighting against Tarek Suleiman for the UAE Warriors Middleweight Title on Saturday, 26th of March in the main event, the Pride of Tipperary. Appreciate the time today, and best of luck. I don't know when you're heading over, but safe travels anyway. And we'll chat to you again after the fight.
It's going to be something a little bit special. Trust me.